So, a few days ago, I decided to check out a game I've been hearing a little bit about. First I heard about it from Jeff on Rage Select, a little game called Divekick, which is an indie game, it's a Kickstarter, and I'd heard about it, and in that, I don't even really think I had really heard the specifics about it. That it's a very simplified, very old school fighting game, basically. And I checked it out, and I downloaded it, bought it for like $10 on PlayStation Network, and I like it. It's a very interesting game, and it's a very good game. It's very entertaining, and that started me down this road about really wanting to look back and talk a lot about how fighting games kind of started, how they've changed, how they've evolved, how they've kind of become what they are, what we like about them, what we don't like about them. I've been trying to get a few other people's opinions. Some have given me some pretty good feedback. Others I just sadly haven't heard from and probably won't, but we'll see. So I thought I would do a bit of a brief retrospective, kind of, but it's mostly just going to be talking about fighting games. Now, probably one of the first fighting games I probably ever played when I was a kid was Street Fighter II in the original arcade, and then when it was later ported to Super Nintendo. And of course, you got the Mortal Kombat series that came out shortly afterwards. And I always really did enjoy the Street Fighter series, but kind of really the overall problem with a fighting game is the relatively common problem in that anytime you're fighting the computer character, you're always prone to the cheapest death imaginable. To just getting cheated completely out of your victory because the computer is able to pull off a move 5 times faster than you ever could. And then there's always like some kind of a weird little game glitch that is just able to be used against you and just screw you over. And and we all know how overwhelmingly frustrating a fighting game can be. Hell, I'll give you a great example. The recent Mortal Kombat reboot, which I really loved. I really loved this game, but this game did have a few flaws, and one of them is, of course, the Shao Kahn boss fight. Cheapest goddamn fucking fight with a boss I've ever had. Utterly frustrating. There were so many moments in this game, in the damn boss fight, where I'm so angry and just so pissed off, because it's probably the 12th, 13th time I've just gotten the shit utterly beaten out of me. And why? Because Shao Kahn is just ridiculously cheap. And I'm throwing my controller and I'm screaming at the television. And why? Because he has 3 special moves that are unblockable and make him partially invulnerable as he's doing them. So it's just ridiculous. And so eventually, the only thing that you can do in order to win is just be a cheap little bastard yourself. Just stay at a distance and just hit him with projectiles. And then that's it. But even then, he can screw you over with one of his own projectiles, his javelin or his goddamn hammer. But, and that's kind of a common problem with a lot of fighting games. And then there are other ones that are able to simplify it. And, and that was what was so interesting about Divekick, was that I've been playing it for quite a few hours now. I've beaten it with a couple of the characters. And, and what was really interesting to me was that every time I was at the final boss fight, I never felt like every one of my losses was cheap. and I never got overwhelmingly frustrated, and I never, wanted to scream at my television or throw down my controller in anger because I just got screwed out of my victory. No, I just didn't time it right, and it was all on me. It wasn't on the game, or anything like that. And that's really what I like about Divekick. It's that it's very simple. It's all about strategy. It's all about, you. It's all about how you time out each and every single move that you attempt to do. And you only have 2 moves in the game, dive and kick. You do have a special move, but even then, that just comes from hitting the 2 buttons at the same time. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, Divekick is basically a very simple fighting game that relies on just 2 buttons. You can't move all about the stage. You can't block. There aren't really any counter moves. There's no special moves. You just use 2 buttons. I play it on the PlayStation 3 right now. You play the game with just these 2 buttons, dive and kick, and then that's it. You can change the controls to to any other 2 buttons that you want. And what's also very interesting about it is that much like any other fighting game, every other character is very different in their own way. Where some are faster, some are slower. Some of their kicks are either short range or long range. Some of them have sort of different kinds of power abilities where, depending on how you jump or how you kick, and then there are special gems that you can use as you progress. Probably, though, the hardest character to use, I've nearly gone through the entire character roster, and, well, there are 2 characters that are kind of difficult to use. The boss, S-Kill, he's very difficult to control, and Kung Pao is a little... Actually, Kung Pao is just very challenging because of the challenge that is attached to her when you take her through the story mode. So S-Kill, who is the final boss of the game, every time you perform his dive or his jump ability, he teleports. Now, and when you actually fight against him, he's able to utilize that where you don't really know where he's going to attack you from. And he also has a counter move as his special ability. And he's way too hard to try to predict and control, is kind of the problem. Kung Pao, if you go through the story mode with her, you start off the game where your opponent already has 4 victories on you. And so they just have to beat you just one more time, and then you lose. So that's one hell of a handicap. I guess for anybody who really likes a challenge. And what is very interesting about the game is that in each and every round against your opponent, you only need to hit each other once. And then that's it. But you have about 5 rounds. Basically, you have to get about 5 wins. Of course, you can change that in the options section. You can give it 3 or even 7. And the time limit for each round, the maximum time limit is 20 seconds. You can change that, but 20 seconds is the highest allowed. So I'd go with 20 seconds. And really, I found it to be a really interesting, challenging, and pretty good game. I just thought it was so funny how there were some people, because Jeff and Jason on Rage Select, they did, as part of their Indie Friday, they took a look at it, because Jeff, he did a Kickstarter for it. He was really excited about it, and he really loved it. Jason just utterly hated it. Was like, this is the stupidest piece of fucking shit I've ever seen. And I love Jason. I do. I think he's, just a really cool, really funny guy, but I think he really overreacted. And so did everybody else in the comment section. There were people that were screaming about the fact that, I can't believe that they charge you $10 for this piece of shit. I've played worse games for $60. Then again, I've also played really bad games for only $1 off of the Xbox Live Indie Network. So, So yeah, it does really depend on the quality of the game. And yeah, everybody's going to have a different opinion, but calm down, guys. It's actually a pretty good game. And these were some of the other titles I was going to get into. I love this new Mortal Kombat for the fact that they took the 3 stories from the first 3 original Mortal Kombats and then just retold them with some different elements, which got me really excited. And then, I think a common sort of problem with the new Mortal Kombat games, ever since around Deadly Alliance, they've had a problem where it feels like there's a little bit of a delay between the controls and then the game, where every time you put in the command, it feels like it's a half-second off from your controller, so that can make kind of performing combos a little difficult. A little bit like the same problem that I had with the game Remember Me, only that was a lot more prevalent. And that really screwed you over on the game. That's not so apparent here, though. Still, though, plus, this is just a game with just a shit ton of content. And it's just so, it's just so good. And being a Mortal Kombat fan, I loved Mortal Kombat 1 when I first played it in the original arcade. We got it on Super Nintendo. I was really disappointed that it was heavily censored, and all the blood was taken out. There was a code, I remember, I think, for the Game Genie where you could unlock the blood or put the blood back in. But I remember a friend of mine and we tried that. We actually tried putting in the Game Genie code, but I remember several times it made the game freeze, and then, even when we got, the blood put in, it was only slightly different. It wasn't at all like the arcade. It was just, oh, hey, it's still pretty much the same. Which was why I was really heavily excited for when Mortal Kombat 2 was ported over, that they just left all the violence and everything in. So. And then, I'm going to skip on to a different game. This was one of the games a friend of mine introduced me to when I first got my PS2, and I was kind of trudging through a lot of the titles. Because I bought the PS2 about a week or so after it first came out, and a lot of the launch titles sucked so hard. And this was actually one of the games that my friend introduced me to that we played a lot of, and that was DOA 2, but this is actually DOA Ultimate that a friend of mine gave me that actually has Dead or Alive 1 and Dead or Alive 2. But what's nice is that this is an updated version of Dead or Alive 2, where there are a few more stages. There are also some added moves for each character. The graphics are also updated a little bit. And, I really, really like DOA 2 a lot. I like it for the fact that the combat system in it is... it's very deep, and this was kind of the game that really introduced me to the parry or the counter system. It was the first game for me, that I ever played that had that kind of a system in it. And I mean, I'm sure you could look at a game like the Bushido Blade games, where I don't remember if they did actually have a parry system in there. I mean, I think they did have a parry system. I never really played the Bushido Blade games. My friends did, though. I remember I checked it out once, and I just didn't get it. Oh well. But, yeah, I like any game where, in order to get around a character's defenses, and more particularly their counter system, you just have to really just change up your style. You know, so I would, like if I was playing against some friends of mine, I would really just be mixing up my style a lot. And I always liked, of course, to play as Jan Lee. And I would really just be mixing up my style. I'd be going very high and then very low a lot, you know, really just to throw them off. You know, just a really good game with a really good combat system. And that was, I always found it interesting later on when I saw a trailer, I think it was for Virtua Fighter 5. And I played the original Virtua Fighter back in the arcade a long time ago. You know, and I liked it. That too was a really simple fighting game. And I thought it was funny how it looked like in the trailer, and I even said like, looks like they kind of stole the combat system from the DOA games. And then I remember overhearing somebody say, well, you know, DOA actually stole the fighting mechanics from Virtua Fighter. And I remember thinking, I played Virtua Fighter in the arcade. It never played like DOA. Ever. It was very simple. You had a punch, you had a kick, you had a jump kick. You certainly couldn't, you know, mix up attacks, you know, with punches and kicks, and you know, and then do like several different combos in different varying heights, you know, varying from very high, medium, and then low. And you certainly didn't have a counter ability in Virtua Fighter. I don't even remember if you had a throw in Virtua Fighter. But Virtua Fighter has not aged well at all. More specifically, Virtua Fighter 2, which I downloaded a while ago off of the Xbox Live Network for like $10-15, and yeah, that game looks and plays like crap. It's so bad now. And this was a game that somebody in the comment section on Spill actually reminded me of, that is a very simple, again, really simple and very fun fighting game, but nobody is ever really going to recognize this as a fighting game. And even I don't really even feel like calling it a fighting game, because it feels like it's a lot more than that. I love the Super Smash Bros. Games. I love them. I remember actually the first time I heard about the Smash Bros. Game for the N64, and the first thing I pictured in my mind was Nintendo characters fighting each other Mortal Kombat style. You know, like I imagine there being blood and then finishing moves like Link taking out his sword and just decapitating Mario, or Mario taking a fire flower and then just setting Link on fire. But no, it's not at all like that. Yeah, and what I really liked about the games as they went on was that they then really started going into each and every one of their characters. Because, you know, I mean, the first Smash Bros. Game is a very simple fighting game. You know, it's meant to be very fast and very fun and very easy to get into. And then, as they went on, they began going into each and every one of their characters and then making them vastly different in terms of speed, strength, their jumping ability, and all of their different special moves and attacks and counters, and then eventually super moves in Brawl, and of course just expanding on the roster and just making it huge. And that was, something that I really, really loved about Smash Brothers. Now, yeah, that's pretty typical of really any fighting game where you have a lot of characters, and they're all, of course, vastly different in terms of speed and technique and such, and, of course, special moves and such. But, this wasn't, the sort of depth I was expecting, from a Nintendo-based fighting game, that just uses just all their characters. And of course, how cool is it to have, some of your childhood characters just beating the ever-living crap out of each other. And I'm really looking forward to the next Smash Brothers game. It's too bad though it's going to be on the Wii U, which means I'm going to have to buy one if I want to play it. I am also kind of excited about the new Super Mario Land. Because I'm still kind of playing it on my 3DS, and then there's another one that's going to come out for both the 3DS and the Wii U, and it's going to be 4-player, and that just looks like a lot of fun. So, yeah. So, fighting games. I mean, to get back, what the kind of a common problem with fighting games and what they've kind of become is that a lot of fighting games are, when you really boil it down, like a game like the Marvel vs. Capcom series currently, or Street Fighter today, they're just straight up button mashers, that just require a lot of thought and a lot of preparation. Like, if you really want to be the best of the best, you gotta learn each and every single character's special move and their combos. And, and really, with any typical fighting game, there's no real strategy involved. Not really. At least not that I've ever really seen. My best friend, who used to be just amazing at Marvel vs. Capcom 2, when it was still in the arcade, I would see him win matches where basically he was just spamming the same combo again and again and again. And that's kind of the thing, is that a really typical fighting game really doesn't require that much thought. Just mash the shit out of the buttons and then you're sure to win. And then, of course, there's the problem of, just ridiculously cheap deaths and fighting a cheap boss that's controlled, by a computer that's going to screw you out of your victory each and every single time. To the point where you're not going to want to play it anymore. You're going to throw down your controller in frustration and scream at your television and scream, "This is bullshit." And you're going to turn off your system and then maybe just want to play something else. At least that's how it is with me a lot of the time. Hell, I remember when I first played Street Fighter 4, after it first came out, and the first couple of matches I played, I quickly remembered, oh yeah, this is why I started hating Street Fighter. Because every single time I would try to go through the arcade or story mode, I would just get my ass handed to me by a cheap-ass computer because, oh, I can do this special move within a second, and there's nothing you can do about it. Go fuck yourself. You lose. And that's obviously kind of why, I like fighting games, but at the same time, I also kind of hate them, too. But Divekick, there's no frustration, or anything like that. And that's really why I like it, and really why I think it's a good and interesting game. I wonder what they would do for a sequel. So, I think that's about all I got. There are obviously just a lot of other fighting games out there, of course. There are the Killer Instinct games. I remember those. God, I love the original Killer Instinct in the arcade. I loved the sequel that came out. I'm not looking forward to the reboot, especially with the fact that it's only going to be on the Xbone. Fuck you, Microsoft. And the fact that apparently, I don't know how much of this is true, but in that when you first buy the game, and I think it goes, I think it's going to go for $20 or so, but evidently you have to buy all of the other characters. So basically it feels like Killer Instinct is just being handled by Capcom. Basically. It's like, oh hey, you want all these other special characters? You'll have to buy them separately. Go fuck yourself. We're Capcom. We don't give a shit. And I don't like how the characters look now. I mean, they look too much like Street Fighter characters. You know, they just look stupid and ridiculous and just overly exaggerated. You know, it looks like a bad Rob Liefeld drawing, basically. There's also Tekken. I didn't play a lot of Tekken, though. I played one of the Tekken arcade games once, and I didn't like it that much. There was also, of course, the Soul Calibur series, which I was going to mention. I actually have, I have a couple of copies of Soul Calibur 2, namely the Xbox, and I believe I have the GameCube version. I don't have the PS2 version, mostly because I didn't like the special character that was in there. But yeah, I really, really did enjoy the Soul Calibur games. I didn't enjoy Soul Calibur 3 because every other character felt the same, you know, in terms of speed and maneuverability. You know, nobody felt different. And that was really why I liked Soul Calibur 4 so much more, because they went back to how they did them in Soul Calibur 2, where every other character was different. You know, they moved differently, and they fought differently, they had different speeds and strengths and such. I kind of want them to bring back the character Necrid. I really like Necrid. I know a lot of people don't like Necrid. Get the fuck over yourself. He was a good character. Ooh, he was cheap. Like, well, every other fucking character in any fighting game is going to be cheap. Okay? Hell, that's kind of a common theme of fighting games, okay? Jesus fucking Christ. He was an interesting character, and I liked him. What other games? What other fighting games? I know there have been a lot of other really, really, really shitty fighting games. Samurai Showdown. That was a good one. I played that one a few times in the arcade, and I have it on my 360 downloadable content. I know King of Fighters series, Fatal Fury, all of those. I know there were others that were just straight up rip-offs of Mortal Kombat that I'm sure I've mentioned in the past. And I'm sure there were even some really bad Street Fighter or King of Fighter rip-offs. I know there was one that I read about in an old Electronic Gaming Monthly mag that I had a long time ago. Can't remember what it was, though, but it certainly sounded really bad. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. So, I'd like to know what you guys think, personally, about fighting games. Do you still enjoy them? Do you consider yourself to be any good at them? I mean, I think I'm okay. I mean, sometimes it depends on the fighting game. You know, I mean, I'm pretty good at I'm pretty good at Soul Calibur. I'm really good at Smash Brothers. I'm pretty damn good at with the DOA series. Mostly 2. I mean, I like 3, 4 is good. I mean, I haven't played that much of 4, and I don't really care about 5. So, let me know what you guys think. Let me know especially what you guys think of Divekick. Have you guys actually played it? What do you think about it? Do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's interesting? Do you not like it? And let's be reasonable. Okay. Alright, I will see you guys next time. Andy and I will actually be back tomorrow for our second part of the Zelda retrospective with Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. So, see you guys next time.